Hi, everyone. I'm Florence Callendar, host of the Confident Parent Summit, and happy to introduce Jan Roberts. Jan is an extraordinary global influencer and self-leadership strategist who has made a remarkable impact on individuals worldwide. He is the co-founder of Key Leadership Institute and founder of JR's Speakers Club. And his mission is to empower and inspire others through international keynote speeches, coaching sessions, behavioral analysis consultations, and value-based leadership initiatives. Jan's unique vision to sustainably shape the lives of millions gives him the drive to take on new projects, speak at prestigious events across 4 continents, and provide people with tools necessary to find their voices and make their mark in the world. With passion and determination in abundance, Jan has set out on a remarkable quest to change lives everywhere he goes. Jan will give a talk that could change your life. Write down everything he says so you can use it every day. You can also get VIP status so you have lifetime access to this talk and all the others and can hear it whenever you want. And now we're all set to start our conversation on self-care for family success. Hello and welcome. I am so thrilled to have you join me on this journey. Yeah, and I'm so excited about what you're going to share today. You know, as someone who dreams of a world where parents of children with learning differences aren't consumed by their academic struggles, I am pleased that you have consented to come on this summit and share your vast knowledge with us. The goal is to provide parents with the tools and the resources that they need to shift their focus from academics to other important aspects of their lives. When we prioritize our well-being and our relationships with our children, what I've found is that we can create a more harmonious and meaningful journey for everyone in the family. And then as a bonus, the child who's having learning difficulties, they also thrive and come right along with everyone else. So today we'll be discussing the vital role of self-care in building strong connections between parents and their children. And you're going to share some nuggets with us. So let's dive in and explore how you can make a positive impact in our listeners' families. So Jan, tell me, how did you get started in the self-care arena?
Well, first of all, Florence, it is a real privilege and a pleasure to be on your show and to be able to not only connect with you, but for you allowing me and entrusting me to add some value to your listeners and mine as well, of course. So thank you very much for that. And yes, it's nothing happens by accident. That's one thing for sure. I always like to quote my dear friend, the mentor Les Brown, who says, there is no such thing as coincidence. Says coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. And I love that. And it doesn't matter to me whether people are religious or not, but I mean, you can look at it in any area of life. But in my life, as a youngster, I got bullied as a little kid because even though I'm 6'4" now, I was as wide as I was tall until the age of 12 when I grew to this height, and I've never grown since. I'm Dutch originally, so I'm very tall. But the emotional scars, the bullying stopped from the outside, but the bullying kept going for here. So in that journey, so much so that I kept worrying and kept everything inside. And I think there's a lot of children who are going through that they don't talk about the things that are happening to them because of a variety of reasons, and all things happen because of that. So maybe I was lucky, but I was the only thing that really happened to me apart from my worrying things. I got an ulcer at 16, which kids at that time certainly never got. It was busy professionals and those kind of people. But at 17, I decided that I did not want to live the rest of my life like that. Now, when I say that now, people sometimes are shocked. They say, no, I've never thought about anything bad happening to my life, even through myself. But as I was going through this, I was also cheered on the outside. See, and that's also sometimes dangerous because we never know what goes on inside our, not even just our children, but our friends, sometimes even ourselves. So I started a journey of when I made that decision, and I think that's very important. Sometimes when we make a decision and shut one door, other ones will open. Whether we take them or not is one thing. But I got handed a personal development book at 17. And at the same time, in the same year, I also started martial arts, which was Aikido, was more about mind power. So I started this whole journey of my self-development, which is an everyday thing. And it's also part of my self-care that I needed every day to grow in my self-esteem and all that. And I'll mention a little bit more as we go through. But when things, because of this constant development and this thirst for learning and improving myself, this was going into leadership and coaching and all that, but then something happened and it really spoke to me. I've been keeping fit and doing all those kind of things, not excessively so, but just it made me feel better of the things I was doing. But then it's about 3 years ago, with everything that was beginning to happen around the world, and I was watching it all, and I was in turmoil inside because I thought, I speak my truth as well, and says, what will I talk about? And will I add to the whatever is happening now and speak my truth, which was certainly different from others? Or will I, how can I add value to others? And I thought one thing that was very little shown about, and I mean, we have no television, that's by choice. And I haven't bought a newspaper for more than 35 years, garbage in, garbage out. But I really thought about it and says, I've done so much of my personal development and looking to taken at least to some degree care of myself that what I didn't see was how we can take care of ourselves. And in the end, it doesn't matter what happens around us and what happens to us, but we really need it. We can control what happens within us, and so we need to really start looking in the mirror. And it doesn't matter at what age, because it happens at any age, parents and children alike. That we are so used to looking outside to blame others. I call it blame storming for what is wrong in our lives, that we really needed to start to look. So I thought, okay, Jan, what you're going to do is, I talk to myself quite often, and sometimes I get an intelligent conversation. But I said, what I really need to do is, I'm going to do 5 to 10 Facebook Lives. I was doing some Facebook Lives about leadership, but I'm going to do 5 to 10 sessions, 5 days a week about Facebook, about self-care. And what happened was amazing, because I started to dig in more into all the kind of stuff that I was aware of and not aware of. I did 44 Facebook Lives on self-care. And that made me, because I was starting to write about these things, then I started writing an ebook about it, which is Self-Care Isn't Selfish, Becoming Healthier Happens by Choice, Not by Chance. And then I created a series about it as well. And since then, I've also been very much more active I did talks about this in different organizations, but very much more active because I wanted to not to say what I do, but I said I wanted people for this to be a catalyst for others and to help young people as well. So the parents to be good examples, be the change you want to see in the world and those kind of wonderful things, but to be an example for everybody and being a catalyst for this day to become the day that we started to look after ourselves much better.
That is such an intriguing story, Jan. So good. And I like your term, blame storming. How did you come up with that? That's just so unique.
No, I mean, I've come up with some of these kind of things, and I've created some words that went in the dictionary. But I don't know if I've ever heard it, but I mean, I thought it made a lot more sense that we do this, because it is about brainstorming, like Napoleon Hill and masterminds and all that kind of stuff. But then I thought, well, it's very different. See, when you brainstorm, you get together and talk about good ideas and develop synergy. But when you brainstorm, you do exactly the opposite.
That's right.
There's very little difference in the words, but a huge difference in the attitude you have to it. And so I use that more, and people smile about it as well. And I thought it's fun, but it also it creates ideas in people and say, well, that's exactly what we do. We talk in little groups about whose fault it is, and it's not ours. It's the government. It's the neighbor. It's the dog. It's my friend who didn't listen. It's everybody else's fault. But
yeah,
somebody said something to me, and it was only 2 days ago, and I've thought about this all the time. And he said, we can't control everything, but what we can't control, we must control.
that's right.
To the best of our ability.
Yeah, and that's how we respond. That's what we can control. Very good. So tell me, what are 3 common errors you find that parents tend to make when it comes to practicing self-care?
That's a wonderful question. And as you say this, I mean, a lot of things come to my mind, and we could talk about eating habits and all those kind of things, and not exercising. But if I may, I will use an example out of my own life. And years ago, I got distanced from my daughter, and it hit my self-confidence. And that's it's what I'm talking about is all about the lack of self-care or the everything that happens. But what I did about this, and I think a lot of parents have things, whether it's a similar situation or situations that caused them to do the same thing, but I started to bury myself in my work. I mean, I got lost in my work, to be honest. And that might be a temporary solution because we don't know, especially as men, we don't know how to deal with our emotions and how to cope with it. Yeah. And it is better to get lost in your work than to take it out on the people in your home, I suppose. What happens too much as well. But this is what happened to me, and I really wasn't aware of any coping mechanisms that I had, because even I moved back to my parents' house, and at some point even my mother, she like mothers are, they are quite often insightful, and I was at work, I was home, and I never went anywhere. And my mother eventually told me to actually go out and enjoy life a little bit more, because she saw this, and bless her, I still thank her for this day. But I think sometimes as parents as well, when we, for whatever reason, get emotionally hit in the heart, like right deep in the soul, it really drains your self-confidence to the level that you don't know. And people say, oh, just take time out and it'll be all right. But take time out from what? And take time out to do what? So for me, one of the things that happened was this, and I think it's in the busy lives and in the fact that parents are trying to make a living and to do the best they can, but it's at the same time, it causes a lot of issues within the families. And as I said, for me, it was when I got divorced. It really dented me. I mean, I was, as I said, I got married young. I mean, I'm actually going to Scotland where my family live. I'm here in South Africa now, and celebrating my daughter's 40th birthday in next month, as well as my mother's 82nd on the same day. But it is something that one of the things that really know that so many people have issues, and men, as we know, it is very difficult for men to show emotions, because we've been told grown men don't cry, stiff upper lip and all those kind of things. And I think men should be able to allow themselves, not from the outside world, to allow themselves to show their emotions better, to be more emotional. And yes, it's okay when we are sad, we're sad. We don't have to hide it, because when we keep those kind of things in us, we do a lot of damage. And I've actually last year, a lady here in South Africa, she asked us to do a week of Facebook. There were 16 men and four a day, and talking about the challenges of relationships we've been in and we've been through, and the challenges men have. And then, because even a lot of women were very interested in that, it came out in a book. So I was part of a book called Relationship for Men by Men. But it is one of those issues that we men as well as women hurt. But the only thing is, men find it very challenging because of their past and all that kind of stuff to show this. So I think it's one of the mistakes even more so men than women make that we do a lot of damage to ourselves by not sharing, by not opening up, by not communicating more. And that has and as you probably know much better than I do, that has a negative effect on the whole family, including the children, because they know. I always say, children and animals know. And the second one I would like to mention is.
So before you go on to the second one, what I understood you just said as one of, and perhaps the most significant error that parents make is to emotionally shut themselves away from the rest of the family instead of sharing and communicating. And so if you're emotionally shut off, then your children won't be benefiting from your wisdom or from anything, and your interaction with them will be negatively impacted.
Yes,
I understand you correctly? Okay.
Absolutely, and that's the most wonderful way to put it, and I think that's exactly so. And that has always going to be a negative knock-on effect.
Okay, so
if there's
now you
happiness in
can
the family.
You can go on and tell us what the second common error is.
And the second common error for this, and I say they're going in the same direction, but because of our busy lives, we are so busy trying to make a living, thinking the best we're going to do, and we don't really have the time that our children deserve for them. And it's not done by purpose. I'm not saying we are to blame, because as parents, many parents don't stand still long enough. They think they're doing the best thing to give their children whatever they need in the quality maybe of material things and food on the table and all these kind of things have got some importance. But the best thing we can give them is of our time. That it's so important. And I think I actually talked with my wife about this earlier on as well. And I think that also quite often these things have a knock-on effect because it happened to them when they were children. Their own emotional childhood issues. But what we see a lot is that because there is no time, there is no real what's the word I'm looking for? No real purpose and need right now. I'm still thinking for the word to have a certain amount of discipline in the house and bring a value system in the house, because I also speak about values, and I think very much that I'm not talking about values on a wall in some fancy office, but basic human values: listening, respect, hope, forgiveness, boundaries, all those kind of things. And I think we don't talk about those kind of things. We hardly talk to each other. Never mind talk to, because these things are also weapons of mass destruction. And that's a whole different story. But I think there is the need for a personal touch. It's in my ebook as well, and it's so underestimated. And I think we found this out already 3 years ago when we had lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. The damage that did. Even for parents, we felt it because we couldn't get to our parents if they were in hospital or something like that. We couldn't go and visit them. But the children, especially the little ones, they hug each other, they hang around each other. The need for the personal touch is huge. And I think as parents also, sometimes we need to take a step back of our busy lives and do some introspection and find out where our own issues are in that department, emotional issues, as you just mentioned as well. And that might even, apart from introspection and it's not a one-day thing that tonight we're going to sit with our children and we're going to connect with them, and then for the next 3 weeks nothing happens anymore. It is better to have a few minutes every day than one forced sit down with them. But we need to in our busy lives. Yes, we can be busy, but we need to make sure that we have that importance where our children are appreciated, because children do what we do, and we've probably done the same, and that's why we've got the habits our parents have, because they don't do what we say, and so they pick up the habits we have, good or bad. And the good ones, it's wonderful, but unfortunately the bad ones also appear, And I've had to look into my own life and look at some of the habits that I picked up, not because anybody else wanted me to have bad habits, but it's just that I followed some of the things that happened in our family, not necessarily just in our family, but to see it in my aunts and uncles and those kind of things. And when you're surrounded, when you're in that environment, it is so easy. So busy lives, lack of emotional connection with our children, especially this day and age.
Okay, and now so we are focusing a lot on parents who have children with reading and learning differences. So when they isolate themselves or they get so busy working, then the child picks up that habit. Because one of the ways I say it is habits are caught, not taught. So it's just another way of saying what you said earlier. So if the child sees that the parent is not taking care of themselves, but they're just working, and they have no time for anything, then that child starts doing the same thing. So instead of trying to figure out ways of improving the areas that they're having challenges, they're just going to focus on one area that they like. So they may be caught up on that what did you call it? Organ of mass destruction. They just get caught up in their devices, and that's where their attention is. So the parent is working and the child is on the device, and neither are connecting. So what's another mistake that parents make in terms of self-care?
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, that was actually John Maxwell. He made that quote one time. He said, we are all great parents until we have children. And it is so true, of course. And with all the best intention, we can learn all these kind of things out of books and from and the things we pick up. But until we eventually become parents, I mean, I still know the nerve-wracking moment when I became a parent at the young age of 21. And I had no idea. But another thing is something that I also, as a parent, had a lot of difficulty with, and that is lack of celebration and acknowledgement of self. And this is something I really had to think into, because I had this. I mean, I was told this. It says, you need to celebrate certain. I mean, only what is it now? Thursday. Only 2 days ago was my birthday. And even my wife asked me, what are we going to do? I mean, it's fine
happy
as long
birthday,
as we are together.
Belated.
Yes, thank you. But I mean, it is even those kind of things. I thought, and partially also because I used to work in the oil industry, so I was all over the world basically when my birthday was, and even when I was younger. We used to go on holiday in our family because of the shop. My dad had a record shop, these black slices that the youngsters don't know about anymore. But I mean, we used to go on holiday, so I was really never at home. So even that had a knock-on effect. But celebrating, because it will affect and reflect on our children as well, because and that's good and bad, because the opposite also happens. If we actually celebrate ourselves and acknowledge the good things we do in life, we've been told as kids as well, the saying that kids should be seen and not heard, and we shouldn't talk about ourselves because that is arrogant and that is bashful and all those kind of things that go with it, selfish. But as I said already, and that's already what people think, when I think about myself and looking after myself, it becomes selfish, so we don't do it. But it's quite the opposite. We have to do it, and celebration is one of those kind of things, because we need to celebrate every success as parents as well, and with our children. I mean, I don't know, when the children come home with a good report from the school, we tell everybody, and it's over. But we don't do that as adults anymore, because we think that is a period we've been through. But to show that we are proud of achieving small successes, maybe even whether you're on a weight loss program or you stop smoking for 3 weeks already, those might be small wins. But children need to see that small wins are important too, because it's all about self-improvement. When you go within, you don't need to seek satisfaction outside. And that's also a powerful area, because therein lies a big problem. And when we can keep it, when we can work within family life and even further within ourselves, to celebrate ourselves, to be proud of ourselves, to build our self-esteem, we don't need to look for getting that esteem from kids in the street and where gang members start coming in, all those kind of issues. We go for drugs to find to get some comfort, and all these kind of things happen. And I'm not saying it would all disappear, but I mean, at least if we start learning to celebrate successes and we start learning to connect with our children, because it's healthy to feel good. I mean, and you can feel the energy in a room. When somebody feels good and walks in the room, you feel that.
Yeah.
And if we can do that for our family, to walk into the living room where our children are sitting playing, and just and be with them, but be really with them, and we acknowledge each other for even something that absolutely, that was the most wonderful meal I've had all week. It doesn't mean that the other meals weren't wonderful, but it's something that's made something different. You said, "Oh, that was lovely, thank you." No, that was absolutely wonderful, and hug and touch and do those kind of things that children need to see, that the passion, the compassion, and the kindness for each other is very, very important. But as kids as well, and I was still in that age that children should be seen and not heard. And talking about yourself was selfish, was arrogant, was bashful, and all those kind of things. So we didn't, and that's also where self-care, when we can't even think about it, because that's selfish. We need to think about other people. Why do you think about yourself? But it's quite the opposite in self-care, because if we don't look after ourselves, we're no good to anybody else when we become ill or indeed pass away. And we have much more energy from within if we are healthy. I mean, this energy for me doesn't just come because I'm excited about having the opportunity to share and get interviewed by you, but also because I'm excited about life.
Yeah.
And I say I'm not the youngest, but I mean, I'm excited about life still, and I will be excited to the day that they have to take me away and drag me away from life. But it is. We need to celebrate the successes, however small they are. We need to be able not only to walk into the living room with that beautiful energy, because there's one thing for sure: everybody lights up a room. Some people when they walk in, and some people when they walk out. Now, as a parent, you should be the one walking in that room and light it up. Not being miserable because you've had a hard day at work. Yes, you can have a hard day at work, but it's not your children's fault. But when they sit there and even they make a little drawing to actually just comment, "Oh wow, that's beautiful." If it doesn't matter if you don't recognize what it looks like, and if you have it upside down, but it's beautiful. Simple little things that make a huge difference in especially the smaller children's life, but also in big children. So it's about self-improvement. See, when you go within, you don't need to seek outside satisfaction. See, if you're happy within, and if that is missing, we are partly to blame for that as parents, because we can't do everything about it because we don't know what's happening, and therefore within those celebrations, if we can keep those going, then we also see much quicker when our child is down. Like for example, my parents never knew that I was getting bullied as a small kid, because I hid it, and I was happy on the outside, and I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I didn't know how to deal with it. But the way I dealt with it, I was a class clown. And everybody knew me as the class clown. I was funny, and they had no idea what I felt like on the inside, because my friends used to call me names because I was way overweight. But so we never know what goes on, but we never know if we keep sticking to these as parents as well. Now we need to go through Facebook, or we need to do all those kind of things. No, even if you have to do that, there is a place and a time, but celebrate. Find out what the kids did in school today. How did you get on? And then also say, by the way, when both parents are present, to find out from each other what they did, and say, wow, that's wonderful. Hug and touch each other, because the human touch is way underestimated, and it makes such a difference. So all those kind of things. But it is healthy to feel good. It is healthy when you show it, and show children to live and be guilt-free and have joy in their life. And that can happen when you help them to celebrate those little things. So I think that's why those kind of things are standing out as a few that we can all improve on in ourselves. And when we be the change. So if we improve ourselves in those kind of things, and even if there's only one parent in the house, you can actually connect with the children, and they help you celebrate your wins and you help them celebrate theirs. It doesn't have to be between parents and then maybe take care of the children. So celebrate life in any which way you can, because you never know when it's your last day.
And that is so important, because children learn from their parents, as we said before. And when they see that their parents are not celebrating the wins in their lives, then they feel as children that it's not okay to celebrate the wins that they have. And one of the things that children who have difficulty learning need is celebration of the little wins that they make. It could be as small as ever, but that needs to be celebrated. So if the parent doesn't take care of themselves by celebrating their own wins, then it's hardly likely that they're going to celebrate their children's wins. So important. So you've taken us through 3 mistakes that parents make when it comes to self-care. You looked at how they isolate themselves when something has happened that has emotionally impacted them in a negative way. You look at how they don't find time, they don't make themselves available to their children. So there's not enough time to really work with their child. So they're not emotionally available or physically available. And now we look at how they don't take care of themselves when they don't celebrate the wins that they have, or the special occasions in their life. So tell me, Jan, what's your best secret for helping parents take care of themselves?
Oh, my best secret for helping them to take care of themselves. That's a great question. I mean, so many, as you say that, so many things go through my head. I mean, one of them is really and involve your family in self-care. And I'm saying this, and that's a holistic approach as well. But also, I think it is much better. It is much easier, and I'm looking at myself as well partially. It is much easier to start looking after yourself and take care of yourself when you can involve the family and become accountability partners to each other, have different discussions, because we need to talk about it first and foremost. I think we need to have those discussions. You know, what it means to have better health, how we can make sure the explanation and the realization of what it means if we don't have good health, and how we always wait until too late. For any parent that at the moment is in this situation that they're too busy and they're not celebrating themselves, and self-care has been put on the back burner because we're busy looking after the family. Look after the family and have those self-care doesn't mean that you have to do it all by yourself. That is also a misconception. And I think one of the best things I would feel like doing, and I can see that when as kids, even in the winter, my dad used to take us out sledging on the little hills we had in Holland, not known for its mountains, but the little hills, and we used to go for walks into the forest and things like that, which was not too far away. Luckily, we were blessed in that way. But there is so many simple little things we can do, even to the point that maybe during the week it might be a little bit challenging, but to involve the kids into preparing healthy meals. Now, I see, because people say, we're going to talk about eating now. We need to eat rabbit food 7 days a week. No, we don't need to do any of that, but we can eat. I think, as you said as well, already mentioned, that the little steps for children with learning difficulties, that same little steps have to be taken with parents with knowledge difficulties, maybe more the point, that they don't know what they don't know. But if by taking little steps, and if the beauty of it is in most of the things that we need to do as parents, that we can involve our children with it, and it doesn't matter what age they are. I see it on television sometimes with little kids working with dad, and they take little TikToks or videos where the children do a lot of the preparation of the food. But what happens is they get to know what goes in a healthy meal, and yes, and have open discussions about, because one size doesn't fit all. So mom might have something that they would like to do. What would you like to do? If you had a chance, what would you like to do? to take better care of yourself? And then start this conversation, and you, Dad, what you know, and you can talk about it, and then get the children involved. So what if we could make a self-care plan? And that is where I wanted to come to, because a self-care plan, I mean, people, I talk about personal development. I say, do you have a personal development plan? And people think I've got horns on my head. They don't even know what it is. Well, a self-care plan is also part, and it's all part of leadership, because leadership is about self and self-leadership, and that starts with personal development. But personal development also needs that you look after yourself. So get out on I would say the best advice is on a weekend, sit down with the children, and never mind what size they are, and at first maybe even with your spouse or your partner, whatever, and look and say, so what do you want to do? What do I want to do to take better care of myself? And I look at mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, because there is all these areas. It's not just eating, sleeping, and exercising. There is so much more. There's about the attitudes, the habits we have that don't suit us any longer. All those kind. But start making that kind of list that we have at the moment that we want to get rid of. Because sometimes to know what we want, we need to know what we don't want, and we shouldn't have. With our face and health. So start making plans together on how we can put healthcare plans, and then everybody have a weekly plan, and it doesn't have to be set in stone, because if you find out that something doesn't work, change it. You're not a tree, change it.
Yeah.
So then you can, for the whole family, you can put the self-care plans on a wall or on a fridge or whatever you want to do, and then every day have a little discussion for 5 to 10 minutes about how is your healthcare plan, how did you do, and you look at it. So okay, you said you were going to do this today. You're going to walk for 15 minutes. How did you get on? Well, I did this. I said, and celebrate small successes. Right. So you can incorporate all those kind of things and connect at a heart level, because now as a family, you're getting healthier. And I think for parents, yes, we need to be that example, but there's nothing better than to be able to include your family and your children into starting that process as young as possible.
Excellent. So what I'm hearing you saying is that you are actually giving a piece of advice that parents can start implementing today. And that is, sit down with your family and create a self-care plan for each person. And in there, you can put things like physical exercise, going for walks. You can also put things like eating healthy, so you prepare healthy meals together, simple things. And when the children are involved, then they take ownership of it, and they're more likely to participate in doing things that actually help them take care of themselves. That is so wonderful. So now, would you direct our listeners to where they can find more information, more of your information on self-care?
Yes, well, I mean, first and foremost, of course, they can connect with me. I'm on all social media, and when they know my name is Jan Roberts with 2 B's, they will see this on here anyway. But they can connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. But I've also got a self-care series, and of course, as a gift, they will get the value of self-care. I've written a value. It's about 3 pages. And it's something that I'm a values-based leadership specialist, and I found this was a wonderful value to kind of create awareness of self-care, then actually the benefits of self-care, taking care of yourself, the characteristics of somebody who does, and also some steps to follow to do so. And then there's also some self-evaluation that you can do. And we do this normally in small groups, and you can do this in your family to go through it together. And it is a great starting point, because at the end of that, it's got you need to set yourself a goal that within the next week you're going to implement something, because we also always know that knowledge is not power. Knowledge acted upon is power, and knowledge acted upon and then evaluated every day is even more powerful. But there is, when people want to know more about self-care, I've written an ebook and created a series as well of 10 videos, which is on a platform, not my own. I'm rebuilding my website at the moment, which is nearly done. But people can contact me if they want more information and they want some more details about self-care, or if they want a talk about self-care. I mean, I really enjoy this, because like all the other things I do about values and about leadership and about communication and about youth development, I love to add value to people. That's why it's such a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you today, and you have added value to me as well with the feedback and the questions you've given me already.
Before we end our time together, is there anything, are there any additional aspects of self-care that we might have overlooked, but you believe is crucial for parents to be aware of?
Oh, that's another good question. What would that be? I think it is that people need to realize, because there's so many people that I talk to about self-care, automatically it is, oh, here it comes, eating. I know we need to eat better. I know we need to exercise more. I know we need to sleep longer. No. Yeah, all of those are good. But I think generally that I would say to people, go and delve deeper into this subject, because I think one of the things that is very important in life, which and it's a quote as well, you know, your attitude is one of the most important things that you have, and there's a book by Viktor Frankl that talks really into this. It's a small book, but he said the one thing that nobody can ever take away from us is our freedom to choose our own attitude. Mm-hmm. And I think it is one of the things, combined with another word that I use a lot, and I do a whole talk about it, is about intentional living. And there I would say, because it's also part of this, a big part really, because people say, I mean, I'm sure you and we've all had good intentions. Mm-hmm. But I don't mean that intentions. I mean, because the difference between good intentions and living an intentional life is that people who have good intentions do something good maybe occasionally. But mm-hmm. people who live an intentional life do something good continually. So if you wake up in the morning intentionally and set your attitude, no, don't hit the news, because it's something that is so easy. Or we switch on the news, or we put this one on and look what bad news we can find in the world, and we set our day up for disaster already. And further so at nighttime as well. I'd say wake up intentionally, set your become intentional in having a good attitude, because attitude is a choice. So if we can start that and have a good attitude and respond, you already mentioned the word responding, which was phenomenal, because most people react, and there's a big difference on that as well. But if we can set an intentional attitude to have a beautiful day, and then that means that we need to start the day properly, with maybe some inspiring music, with maybe a TED talk, maybe some like my dear friend Les Brown or any of the others who talk inspiringly or maybe some affirmations, whatever that takes. The same on the other end of the day. But when we go to bed, don't listen to the news before you go to bed. Don't ever go to bed on a fight, and make sure that you switch your electronics off at least half an hour to 45 minutes before you go to bed. And if you still need to do something, listen to something positive, because what goes in before you go to sleep has a huge effect on the way you sleep and the quality of your sleep. So true. And that is much more important. So yeah, I would say those kind of things all come together, and it says we need to have a better attitude to our life, the way we live it, and the way we want to live a legacy rather than just leave a legacy.
Excellent, excellent. And I once read that 90% of illnesses begin in the mind. And I would think that has to do with one's attitude. So if parents change their attitudes and become intentional, that they live on purpose, they plan how they want their children to function, they plan how they are going to live their lives, how they are going to be with their children. So those children that are having difficulty learning, they can see the example of the parent, and they can pattern themselves after that. So then if they have the right attitude, it makes it easier for them to actually try different interventions that would help them improve in their academic journey. And so, Jan, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your vast knowledge, experience, and expertise with our parents. I know they would be pleased with the information that you have given us today. And I pray that God just continues to bless you as you bless others. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for Florence again for entrusting me and inviting me into your realm. I thought that's no mean feat, and I never take that lightly. So thank you very much for all you do and the enlightenment you bring to so many people and their children. Thank you.
You are welcome. God bless you.